The Inukshuk Way. Mental health. Preamble. You may have already read dozens of books on personal growth. Where is your first reading of this kind? One thing seems to imply that if this book is in your hands, you may not have found all the answers to your questions. In this book, I will try to give you some ideas to find answers to your questions for yourself. Why reflective tracks and not prefabricated answers? Because we are all unique and different even in our similarities. An answer may suit an individual and not be for someone else. This is why I believe that a personal journey must be done individually. We can search for reflections, but the answers are in us. In this book, I will also share my personal points of view. This is not the only truth, but a way of approaching life. I am not a psychiatrist or psychologist. I am a woman who through her life course had to make choices and evolve. Truth, confidence, and wisdom are sometimes learned with boldness, and I confess it to you, my life was not always one of wisdom. I learned with the trials and the mistakes of each day. I questioned and analyzed many times and looked for my answers in myself. Give yourself the right to respite, but never give up. Prejudices. It is not easy to talk about mental health, especially when we are directly concerned. For my part, I often had the fear of being judged, and it was sometimes the case. That's why today I want to talk about it openly so that taboos and prejudices fall. We are all human beings and we can experience weaknesses in our life course. It does not make us cowards or crazy. Mental health is still very taboo nowadays. People do not dare to talk about what they live and sometimes do not dare to ask for help. It is necessary that the perception of the society evolves towards an acceptance of this aspect, which makes nevertheless well and truly part of the life. Many taboos still today. Often by the ignorance of others. We are not so different. The beauty of life is expressed thus. If we were all the same, what would be left of wonders? Others' discovery. From the world and the planet. While mental health scares, we pay the fees. Misunderstandings and misunderstandings. The judgment of others leaves little option. Prejudice must fall. That lack of dark acceptance. For everyone to be welcomed. In a society where life is good. The judgment. I think the judgment should be used sparingly, that is, with caution. I believe that a constructive criticism instead of a judgment, for example, may be quite acceptable and even desirable in some cases to help us evolve. Anxiety, depression, psychosis, sadness and melancholy were part of my daily life. I was constantly exhausted and was crumbling day after day. I consulted a psychiatrist who diagnosed me with depression. However, my problem persisted. I did not arrive with the help of drugs and therapies to get out of it. I took the initiative to do a lot of reading on the personal journey. I read and read again. I learned interesting things, but that did not change my mind. One day, even worse, was psychosis, which is characterized by a loss, among other things, of reality. I felt in critical condition, but I had a goal: get out of it. I reanalyzed all my life, and that several times. Moreover, I had to find a meaning. I self-questioned on several existential topics, to define my own conclusions. First, it was essential for me to make sense of my life. I thought, why not just be happy every day? Learn to appreciate every moment of life. As I learned to appreciate the moment, I began to discover happiness. My anxieties and worries were now less worrying. Secondly, I did a personal job on conditioning my thoughts. Change negative ideas with positive ideas. For example, if I said myself getting up in the morning, I do not have the taste to get up this morning, I replaced this idea with, I get up with enthusiasm, it will be a beautiful day. At first, I did not really believe myself, until the day when, just like today, I am morning and I start every day in a good mood. Admittedly, drugs and therapies have their place, but we all, I believe, have a way to go with ourselves. Anxiety. Anxiety is characterized for me by a constant little internal stress. I worry about everything and nothing. It could be for my car that is to be washed and yet has nothing urgent, the grocery list, the cashier, the balance of my bank account, or an unexpected letter that I just to receive. This inner stress, I attribute today to fear. Fear of failing to meet demands. Fear of being judged or not knowing how to handle a situation. This anxiety is a little sly. Sometimes you feel like you're controlling everything, but in fact this insidious fear is tormenting us. Anxiety manifests itself in many symptoms. You may feel a fear of dying. Feeling like having a heart attack, chest tightness, earthquake, insomnia, tired, nausea, headache, have sweats. All these symptoms are real and are caused by real fears. However, if we take a closer look at our fears, we realize that they are not necessarily true. That is, if I'm worried about someone looking at me, I'm probably worried about nothing, because I do not know the thought of the person behind that look. Does this person have any problems that day? We do not know anything. General anxiety, and fear are quite synonymous. When we feel these emotions, feel bad about ourselves, and we have only one wish that it stops. What to do? There are many solutions that are suggested. Meditation and relaxation are great inspirations. For example, anxiety can sometimes be so strong that we have the impression of lack of air, hyperventilation crisis, to have tightness in the chest, which gives the impression of a heart attack, or to make a crisis panic. We do not control anything, fear dominates us. In all cases, it is advisable to consult a health professional for appropriate evaluation and treatment. Tips: counter anxiety, and fear. During our life we can experience anxiety, and fear. We experience a feeling of discomfort and do not always know what to do to make it better. Here is a little thing that I experimented and that works. It is necessary to repeat often the exercise to have results. The depression. Characteristics: loss of joy of life, sadness, melancholy, tiredness. A sad and melancholy state of mind lives in us. To die seems a solution. Sometimes we have to give up things that are generally important to us because we cannot do them anymore. It's a permanent nightmare. If there are two sides to a medal, we always see the bad side. Getting to feel good seems impossible. Our life goals can sometimes seem out of reach and can cause us distress. Crying and moping are part of everyday life. With a very negative attitude towards what surrounds us, it does not help healing. Changing one's way of thinking when everything seems to go wrong is not obvious, however. What to do? Consult a specialist. Talk to someone you trust. Help yourself. Solutions: change, among other things, his way of approaching life. Make an effort to design the beautiful side of any situation. Examples: it's a scorching heat outside, it's the heat and I'm impatient at the line at the grocery store because the service is slow. The beauty of things, at least I am in the air conditioning. The goal was to buy a house, but in the impossibility of realizing it as planned causes me a feeling of great disappointment. The positive side of things: I still have a roof and I make it a nice place to live. I have more time for myself because I do not have the maintenance of this house. The impossibility to resume the same work as before the depression, after it, because it is too stressful, for example, allows me to discover new talents on the job market. Having found a positive point in the situation, we defuse the anchoring of negative thoughts that can be maintained. So, to cure his depression, one must simply change one's way of seeing and approaching life. Simply, not so easy, but it's worth the effort. It may not cure everything, but it cannot hurt. Work and depression. Proposed for a later. Mental health can interfere with work for a longer or shorter time, but a return to the job market is always possible, even if it feels good. Before you were young and had ambition. You may have studied or learned a job that you liked. You exercised it for a while before everything changed. During one or more events or an accumulation of fatigue come to shake up your life. You had a job that you liked, or not, but you were able to do it every day. After the event that has occurred in your life, separation, bereavement, financial problems, etc., or an accumulation of the stresses of life and fatigue, you are unable to get up in the morning and go to work. You no longer have energy or motivation. You have to take some rest. Take time for yourself and resume good habits. It is necessary to put order in your life, that is to say, to choose your entourage, your activities, and your rhythm of life. After all hopes are allowed for a return to the job market, in the same field or why not in anything else. You have to choose first. Validate your physical and mental abilities, and yes, you have them, your resistance to stress, and go for it. Bipolar. When our moods flicker. The mood can in some situations be very sullen and sad. We have no energy, no taste of anything. A few days later, it's the opposite, we could climb Everest, there is nothing to our test. There are effective medical treatments for this type of problem, but it is not 100% effective in my opinion. Unfortunately, I have not found a miracle solution to these states of souls. The only thing I think we can do is say when things are not right, tomorrow will be better. And that's often true. When you feel good you must take advantage of it, but don't aspire to our abilities. It is good, I think, to talk to our entourage, because they will be able to react better to us by behaviors that can be sometimes changing. They will be able to better understand and perhaps even offer some support. One thing we can also consider is to analyze and consider the facts. In fact, probably almost nothing has changed, except our vision. We must be careful with the way we look at a situation, because we are aware that it changes, that it evolves, and that our state of mind plays a lot in the perception of it. We do not have control over our mood disorder, but we can become aware of our perception of things and adjust. Psychosis. This is not inevitable. Just the word is scary. It is a mental illness that, if left untreated, causes a great deal of inconvenience to the affected person and those around them. Symptoms. Unstable mood. Sleep problem. Loss of contact with reality. Some people may hear voices or see things that do not exist. Strange beliefs. Delirium. Some people believe that one can read in their thoughts. Confusion. In my case, the idea that one could read in my thoughts was very omnipresent because of the many coincidences that I thought to be denoted. My mood wavered between very good or very bad. I lived a loss of contact with reality. This is the kind of thing that is easily denoted once the treatment has done its job. By the time this psychosis broke out, I was living alone. I was desperately looking for meaning in my life. I read tons of books on the personal journey, but I never found the answers I was looking for. I was also looking for a new field of work in which I could evolve. Since the university, which I left for reasons of health, I did not know in which field to orient myself. I hoped that by searching and seeking again, I would eventually find. This is not how I finally solved the problem. Choose to live. To choose to live life seems hostile. I testify that I will never regret having chosen life, when everything seemed obscure to me. There were days when everything seemed dismal. In my soul and very interior I suffered without bounds. I could not see any way out of my life. I was afraid to sink to the bottom of a well. I would have liked to see the beautiful life. But his aura black me sorrow. At the point where I had to decide one day. Would I live or drown myself? From hope to hope I have never stopped believing. One day this haze in my black spirit would go away to make room to a life sometimes cold, but not of ice. To life I hung with all my might. With fear on the stomach and chest pain. My wish is finally raised. The end of my torment without pity. Always to believe in life must persist. Because every new day is at our feet. From minutes to minutes evolves our existence. It only takes a fraction of a second for luck. Smiles at our lassitude of life. Transform our destiny to infinity. Life is made of surprises. Are not you curious to try? Living is a wonderful opportunity. Intensely I want to enjoy it. Eternally I believe it. Love and mental health. A fundamental right. One might think that knowing true love is impossible because we have lived or are experiencing mental health problems. It's wrong. You may have been told that you were unfit to live love because of your mental health. It's wrong. Every human being has the fundamental right to love, regardless of their physical or mental condition. Each of us must be aware that he is a being in his own right and has the right to love and to be loved. This is not reserved for a class of elected officials. The right to love. We all have the right to love and to be loved. Never lose hope that you will find love one day. It may be long, but that day you will understand why it was so. Sometimes it's worth being patient. Often we believe that we do not have the right to love. Even worse, we told you. Above all, do not believe that. Anyone who wants to know love in his life is entitled to it. That's not to say that because you want to find love, he'll be there the next week. However, with always hope we manage to realize some of our dearest dreams. I believe that in love, we must always be honest with the chosen one of our heart, on all levels. There is nothing to hide, everything to be said. That's how we build trust. This must be reciprocal. I tell you everything. You tell me everything. Left to hurt the other in his feelings by our confessions, it is always better to have the right time. In love, there is nothing impossible, nothing insurmountable. If we said something that hurt our partner, he loves you and he will find the strength to forgive. Of course, that might not be the case and the person who was hit might want to leave. It's a hypothesis. It's a risk to take. On the other hand, if you go through all the storms together, imagine the strength of the trust that will grow between you, the depth of your love. Rules. I have the right to love and to be loved. I have confidence in myself. I trust each other. I have a duty to be honest with the person of my heart about my health. Make a love relationship. A person who is experiencing mental health issues may well consider a romantic relationship. The important thing is to be honest and to tell everything to your life partner about your physical and mental condition from the beginning of the relationship. Communication in the couple. Communication between two people is not always easy. One thing is certain, it is that in a couple it is necessary to be able to make compromises. We cannot have everything sometimes that would be our desires. We must accept that his life partner also needs that sometimes comes into conflict with our own needs. In order to make life more enjoyable, we can try to please both parties, while maintaining self-respect in the other. An old quote that is always honorable today is, to know how to put water in your wine. Although sometimes you can have the impression of having more water than wine in your glass, you must think that the other is probably the same thing. The secret to being happy in love is authenticity. Be true. Do not hide anything, say everything openly. A relationship based on communication and openness. Conflicts. Conflicts often emerge because everyone believes they are right. This is undoubtedly true, but being flexible allows you to better understand the point of view of your interlocutor, and so we can arrive at a shared point of view. The wedding. Perhaps you dream of the big day, or it is totally indifferent to you. However, living as a couple, married or not, has substantially the same commitments. A marriage, whether by marriage or not, requires certain agreements between the partners. First of all, we have to establish a frank and honest communication relationship in all cases. We must discuss our tastes and needs frankly and clearly with our partner. We must establish the rules to be respected between the two parties. What is marriage? It's having faith in us tomorrow. It's getting caught by the hand. That's to say, my love, I'm here. In highs and lows. Follow this path. Because it's our destiny. It's listening. Even in doubt. It's opening your heart. At moments of happiness. The tests. When our life seems to be peppered with pebbles, we must know how to make jewels. Name of the work, To Your Wishes. Inukshuk, created by Steve Borgalt. The trials we are going through, we must discover our strengths. The desert I had to cross. In the middle of a storm of ideas. Against the windmills I fought. Against the disease I conquered. We shape the trials. I have proof. For a better tomorrow. For a life of happiness. From an existence the course. There is no point in passing one's turn. To adopt is the attitude. To know the fullness. The fear. Can fear be our ally? I think so. While I had the terrible fear of sinking into the pit during illness, the fear I felt propelled me towards the desire to live at all costs. Because fear can sow terror inside. I have the choice of hour to hour. To flee elsewhere. Or absorb the energy of my fright. Create my inner strength. The poles of our thoughts. From negative to positive ideas. If our life becomes bleak and sad, we are likely to want to end life. As I have experienced, even in distress we have a strong power over our consciousness. From this awareness we can exert our brain to switch negative ideas into positive ones. The exercise is simple. When a negative idea makes its appearance, I force myself to think of something positive. With time, the exercise becomes easy and sends our brain back to a comfort zone, where we learn to change our vision of life to be happy. My soul was in mourning. From my own life on the threshold. Until the day I understood. I had to say yes to life. I metamorphosed the poles of my thoughts. The dark thoughts, I rejected them. By more positive reflection. In my life, I changed the vision. I simply summarize. Black ideas, I replace you positively. I still do not believe it. Yet the evidence will be there. The art of living. We can learn from others. However, we must not forget all the potential that is in us. We can also learn from ourselves, by ourselves. The art of living is found in each of us. It's up to us to find our stuff to face the pitfalls of life. The future. We have a very often mistaken view of the future because we simply do not know anything about it. So why worry about tomorrow? The present. Since we cannot predict the future, it is better to act now. The present is here and now, not in an hour or two. Someone may ring the bell or the phone may ring and oops, all of a sudden the forecasts may change. Without apprehending the worst, your present can evolve very differently from your forecasts. For example, you have decided to make a recipe and you notice during the concoction of your menu that you are missing an ingredient that you think you have in your possession. You then go to the grocery store to buy what you are missing. You notice that the leeks are special and you think that a leek cream would be much better for your dinner than the salad you had planned. Here we can see that you had not planned this outing and this change of menu in the morning while you get out of bed. That's life. Always surprises, and not only bad ones, good ones too. To be flexible. To stand against the obstacles of life is never very useful. Better to adapt and continue our journey. Flexible under the wind. Stay strong in time. Adapt to the onslaught of life. A successful principle. The path of our life can sometimes take detours, and that is what makes the beauty of the course. The benefits of a pet. Alone or as a couple, a pet brings joy, well-being, and comfort. His presence can be reassuring. This being relies on us for his survival. We are therefore indispensable to him. To offer him water, food and love will show him our attachment. Do not be afraid to talk to them. They pay attention to us without judgment. In return, they appreciate our presence and know how to testify to it. By their spontaneous behavior, they can make us smile often. A pet can break the isolation, bring a reassuring presence, and their presence often has the effect of reducing our anxiety. For those with allergies, goldfish is a good option. This is not a joke, I already had fish and I was attached to them. I liked to see them swim simply. Forgiveness. To forgive is to tell the other that we are ready to move on. One never forgets, but to maintain rancor is useless, even that it is harmful for us and for our relations. There may be some anger towards another person, which only makes us feel uncomfortable. We do not have to ask for forgiveness, whatever we can do to. One can learn to forgive oneself some mistakes, for example. It is not necessary to use a religion or a person appointed for that purpose. We can do it for ourselves or for someone who has made us suffer. We have free will on how, who and why to forgive. The need to feel appreciated. In my opinion, we all have a certain desire to please and be appreciated around us until we realize that it is not necessary for our well-being. A proverb says, "Who loves me follows me." Those who appreciate us may be able to demonstrate it to us, but for others it is not necessary to demonstrate recognition, even if they appreciate the person. They will remain silent. Example, I know that at work I am appreciated, not by touching remarks, but rather by a lack of negative comments about the tasks I perform. If we wait for the gratitude of others to advance in our life, we may find it painful. We must believe in ourselves, first and foremost. Discomfort/shyness. Often, for fear of displeasing or being ridiculed, we dare not do certain things. But who are the others to judge us? Who is better than anyone to judge others? Nobody. We all have our strengths and our weaknesses. We all have the right to exist on this planet. Staying shy, reserved or embarrassed in front of others will bring us only discomfort and discomfort. We must dare, even to be wrong. At worst, if we laugh at ourselves and we laugh too. There is a proverb that says, "That is not worth a laugh, is not worth much." Our embarrassment often takes root in our beliefs and fears. You have to make an effort to uproot yourself and change the way you interact with others. How? Dare, try, go for it. Stumble, get up, start again and finally get there. Difficult to talk about it, the fear of dying. Just reading this word, you may have shuddered, and that's understandable. Depending on your beliefs, there is or is not something after death. Personally, I do not know the answer to the question. Many people are afraid of death, but do not dare to talk about it for fear of judgment. However, fearing death does not give way to life. Let me explain. If we live in fear of dying, we do not live the present moment. We waste precious time to worry about last day. But how would we approach life if we knew the hour of our death? Would we fall into exaggeration or an amorphous state before life? Personally, I prefer not to know and enjoy each day with intensity. If I speak of the fear of death, it is because I used to be scared of it. I was afraid of diseases, among other things. I found something to learn to stop giving importance to my fears. Whenever a fear arose, I would say go away or stop, as often as it was necessary to change my mind. And it works. In addition, I stopped worrying for nothing, because to the answer where, when, and how, I would know it only there, so there is no point in thinking about it anymore and worrying about it. Something we cannot control. To live one's life is not to fear it. We are aware that one day or another we will all be brought to our last rest. Do not wait for this day to tell you, I would have to enjoy life. Take his life in his hands. Getting help is great, but even more rewarding is helping yourself. After experiencing mental health problems, we must also consider that we still have a life to live and we must chart our way. It is not up to our entourage or health institutions to decide for us. We can make our life that good it seems to us. During a hospitalization or serious mental health related symptoms, we need support, be it medical or those around us. On the other hand, once restored, we warmly thank those who have supported us, but it is to us that our destiny belongs. It is important to note this fact, because I thought I saw a desire for far too much supervision of health services, without counting sometimes the family or relatives who have their say. In any case, we must be grateful for the help we have received, but we must also stand on our own. You have to choose for yourself. Take steps for yourself. Be self-confident. If the need is, we can consult or ask for help. The newspaper of our desires. Dreaming to realize one's dreams is a wish that can sometimes seem unattainable. Yet we all have chances. A small, easy, and enjoyable exercise can help us. In a notebook you have, a simple blank sheet, imagine your dream. Describe it. Keep this text and go back to read it from time to time. This is not to discourage anyone, but having done the exercise myself, I can say that it is sometimes very long before this word portrait shows his face. The carapace. Unusual, an insect has an exoskeleton or carapace to protect itself from the outside. When is he from us? Are you an insect? So I'm afraid that a carapace does not suit you. In humans, the shell may have other names, such as masks, for example. It's about showing that you can demonstrate instead of just being yourself. To be hard when we are rather sentimental can help us to protect ourselves from others, from the outside world. In some circumstances it may be helpful, it can also affect our relationships with our loved ones. The carapace does not allow our interlocutor to perceive our real feelings. Self-expression through poetry. How to learn to be oneself better by writing. I discovered the pleasure of writing poetry as I was going through a critical period of my life. Through words, I could share my states of mind. The words owed a universe where I loved to take refuge to let my ideas juggle and thus create small works. The possibility of writing and rhyming our thoughts is within the reach of all. It is an affordable tool in the sense that it does not cost anything, we are all capable of it, and that can allow us at the same time to make reflections on ourselves and thus to better understand oneself. The power of our thoughts. This is about the power we can exercise over ourselves. We have the power to manage our thoughts, that is, control our fears, feelings, emotions, and actions. We have the power to create our imagination. We have the power to transform the world we live in, transforming ourselves. When I change my mentality, my way of acting, I automatically change around myself. Others react to our actions. Hope. Hope is in us. Hope supports us when everything seems to go wrong. Hope gives us a glimpse of better days. Hope, nobody can come and take it away. Hope is not a guarantee, its strength in us. The history of windmills. Wind turbines, modern windmills, in my opinion. There used to be a time when I fought against windmills. A few years ago, I was struck because I would call an existential crisis, my doctor said, rather, a psychosis. In my head jostled many ideas and not all the happiest. Among other things, I had a terrible fear of diseases. I was fighting constantly, but against things that did not exist. My husband had the brilliant idea of translating into images and stories what I was going through. He tells me, just like Don Quixote, that you are going down against windmills, things that do not exist. The story of Don Quixote, among other things, says that having a bad vision, he thought he was fighting against dragons. The day he found that he was fighting against windmills, the dragons never existed. As I thought I had, for example, diseases that did not exist, I was fighting somehow against windmills. The perspective that the windmills offered me allowed me to lighten my thoughts and my suffering. I understood that I was fighting against things that were not real. Why wind turbines? I consider them today as windmills of modern times. They inspire me happiness. Original idea. Steve Bourgault. Reference. The ingenious Hidalgo Don Quixote of La Mancha. Miguel de Cervantes. Personal growth. Personal growth is not something you accomplish in a day. It consists of a zone of silence where one has the impression of being fixed in time and one has the impression that nothing is happening. It is sometimes followed by a time when the movement is so intense that one has the impression of losing the north. Between all that, lulls. Times of awareness and inner revolutions. Reflection times mature and bear fruit. Personal growth is an inner journey. We do not know how it takes root and it will never end. Each new day is an opportunity to learn, evolve, and flourish. Loneliness. Being alone or feeling alone is a very uncomfortable feeling if it is not what we want. The long days of loneliness I have experienced in the past are a painful memory, because I remember all the sadness I was experiencing at that time. To fill my days of loneliness I read and wrote. What I wrote at that time was more like pages of lamentation. At least it was liberating. These times of loneliness are not lost time. These are periods of germination in our minds. Sometimes you have to take a step back from yourself to get better afterwards. Choose your living environment. Place of life. Our place of life is in the image of ourselves. Of course, we can want a luxurious home and live more modestly, according to our financial means. Nevertheless, our place of life must represent us. Our place of life transcends our soul. It is we who express ourselves through our furnishing, the arrangement of the decor and so on. Our soul transpires through our interior design. If it's not to your taste, just put your personal touch. At my house we restore old wooden furniture. It has an ancient side that we greatly appreciate. The decoration and furnishing are up to date, that is to say that our development is constantly evolving. Every day we bring a new personal touch to enhance our environment. A new bouquet of flowers, we move and refurbish a corner of the living room by moving a piece of furniture, for example. The people around us. It is important to choose the people around you. These have a direct influence on us. If we do not want to be influenced against our will, it is imperative to choose our surroundings. Many people may someday enter our lives. The family, among others, is essential from our childhood. A day will come when we must analyze our surroundings and choose the ones we want close to us, of those whom we want to remove permanently from our lives. If people around you motivate you to make positive choices in your life and bring positive energy to you, then these are probably people you should keep in your surroundings. If after meeting someone you feel tired or depressed, maybe you should think about whether this person brings you more in your life than she takes. Fatigue and depression followed by a person's encounter may be a sign of its negative effect on you. It is therefore imperative to ask yourself whether you should consider whether to continue this relationship. Our activities. Our activities must reflect who we are. Doing things only to do things is boring, and it is very likely that we will abandon the project. We must choose activities that stimulate and motivate us. We are free to make our choices, but be certain of one thing: we must make our choices, not those of others or for social appearance. Our work. In general, we must work to support ourselves. Getting to work every morning backwards is far from pleasant. We have to work in an environment that we like and that stimulates us. You say, I do not have the choice to do this job, so you always have the choice to learn how to love your job. It's up to us to decide our vision. Our mind or brain is powerful, but learns to believe what you teach it. If you repeat yourself day after day that your job is boring and stressful, then it will be so. If you say that your work is motivating, then it will be. We must choose what we dictate to our brain or mind, because it will believe you. Our spirit. Our mind or our brain is listening to us. If you tell him beautiful things, he will feel relaxed and evolve peacefully. If you torment your mind with unpleasant comments, then you may be sad, disappointed, angry, or even depressed. Everything lies in our power to create our life in our image and hopefully, a good life. Our brain is at our service. It is endowed with billions of nerve cells, the neurons, that interact together to manage our body. It is so also for our thoughts. How to learn to control them? By adapting our internal language. If, for example, I say to myself over and over again that I am incapable of doing anything, it is likely to be so. If, on the other hand, I open my mind to the possibility that I can accomplish this thing, I give myself at least the chance to try to achieve it and perhaps even succeed. It's up to us to create our life. Sometimes we have conflicting or negative ideas. In order not to take precedence over us, we can drive them out of our mind just by saying our negative ideas, and replace those negative ideas with positive ones. Create happiness. We get everything so easily nowadays that we do not know how to appreciate what we have. Sometimes, lack creates happiness. When we are deprived of something that we consider essential, we appreciate it more when we find it. There is also another way of seeing things. Sometimes the lack allows us to find in us other resources that we did not know. We can even enjoy the lack and savor what life offers us at this moment. Our memory. Memory is a faculty that forgets, say, but memory is also conditioned. We can condition our memory by forcing it to retain certain things. This can be done by repeating what one wants to remember. We can also learn to make combinations to better remember something. We just have to find our stuff and the memorization will become natural. A philosophy of life. Some believe in a religion, in God, or in the power of the universe. No matter what your personal beliefs are, one thing is certain: you must first believe at least one person in you. You are the best person on this earth to make your decisions and find the answers you are looking for. By self-questioning you will eventually answer your internal questions. To free oneself and become oneself. Our life must be in our image. It may not always have been so. We all received an education that led us to act in these terms. Today you are the only captain of your ship, your life. It may be beneficial in some cases to revisit or revoke some of the teachings we have been given to forge a new vision of life through our experience and learning about what life is. We are not required to follow the rules we have been imposed on in the past to manage our lives. As a person we can choose our new rules to adopt. We choose them because they seem right to us and meet our needs. To blossom is to become oneself. To be oneself is to define by ourselves the rules that govern our life. Who are we to take such initiatives? We are I. Defining one's rules of existence requires having learned to know oneself and to have enough self-confidence to impose oneself. To bloom is to be oneself in all circumstances. It is to be honest with our ideas and our actions. To liberate oneself and to become oneself is to withdraw from what constitutes our past and to attach to it. We must create ourselves, in our image, with the help of our inner strength. We can trust our intuition in choosing our creation from our lives. Our emotions and thoughts guide this path, traced by us, For us. Sexuality and mental health. The sexuality of those affected by mental health often seems a neglected or even a denied subject. Yet we can feel desire and want to perform a sexual act. Our morale is sometimes so low that our thoughts are far from sexuality. On the other hand, other days, we can also experience desire. If our environment devalues us and denigrates our ability to live a love relationship, sexuality will suffer as well. Taboos and prejudices must leave room for the respect and dignity of every human being. To learn to conceive that sexuality does exist, despite the mental condition. Eroticism in health. We can go through a depression or be bipolar, for example, but we still feel sexual desire. We are not to blame, it is normal according to my experience. The state of mental health may not be conducive to sexuality every day, but occasionally it can be very enjoyable. Living myself with certain diagnoses, I want to specify that despite the barriers that seem to be around us, I have always persevered in the path of my personal and sexual growth. Singles. The disease can sometimes be overwhelming, but the hope of making your life together arouses your interest. Do not be fooled by the nonsense that you are not fit to love. You are entitled to it, even if it may be beneficial for your health. Intimacy. Living alone is sometimes painful and can lead to melancholy. Our body being of human flesh, we feel physical needs, such as sexuality. Without wanting to make you blush too much, it is permitted to procure intimate pleasures. This has a direct effect on our morale, which is better. Our body relaxes its tensions, and this moment that you offered yourself is a proof of love for yourselves. We all have a duty to learn to love ourselves, because the person we are close to every day is ourselves. Couples. Sexuality, if desired in a couple, is very beneficial for the state of our mental health. Learning to give and being intimate couple times promotes communication. When we communicate, we learn about ourselves, among other things. Getting to know one another is the basis for a journey of personal fulfillment. Our body. You have to learn to know and love your body. You have to feel comfortable to touch it. Every time we push back the limits we thought we had, we emancipated a little more. One learns to live in harmony with oneself. In my personal life, I can say that building self-confidence and self-fulfillment is a reflection of my open-mindedness, as my husband held out his hand to me. Even this one will compromise strongly by my sexuality, to which I gave a great importance. We must not neglect ourselves, be it our body or our mind. To remember, in a couple you must always promote communication. You have to be honest and honest with each other. The opening of the heart allows to enter the intimacy of his partner. Maybe your life and sexual partner will become your closest caregiver and will guide you to personal fulfillment horizons. About the author. I am a married woman for 2 years and I am now approaching quarantine. I have long believed that I would never know love and that I would never find meaning in my life. Yet it was the opposite. Just after my 30s, my life changed. I had been diagnosed for about 10 years with generalized anxiety, major depression, and bipolar disorder. Just after crossing the threshold of 30, I was diagnosed with psychosis. I received medication as a result, but personally I never found it very effective. I lived constantly in fear of events, people, and many situations over which I had no control. It was 99.9% still unsubstantiated fears. My fear of everything had only devastating effects on my health. I was continually stressed, and this had a direct impact on my physical health. Bellyache, headache, continual fatigue, and general discomfort. It also had an impact on my mood. I cried regularly. First, I want to say that the drugs did not cure my anxiety *, although they could relieve it. Mostly I had to make personal efforts to win the fight against my fears. I had to learn to better control my thoughts, not to be overwhelmed by ideas that could have increased my anxiety level. Most of the time, I was aware that my fears were unfounded, but I gave them importance anyway. In a sense, I told myself fears and I believed myself. I had to learn to better control my ideas, especially my fears. With each anxiety-provoking idea I said, no, stop. I had to reason with myself by analyzing sometimes the whole situation in order to bring out the reality, which generally came to show that I worried for nothing. I learned to control my thoughts, my state of mind, and I no longer live in fear. Asterisk, this is a personal and non-medical point of view. Example. I have insomnia because I do not know if I could pay my bills this month. Option 1. I'm worried, I'm looking for 1001 solutions that I have already looked at, and I continue to worry and I do not sleep. Option 2. I am aware of the problem. I am looking for solutions. I cannot find or more. I can question myself then, but what is the worst that could produce? A task on my credit for late payments, or maybe cutting some services. It may sound terrible, but tell yourself that you are still healthy and alive. Once there, tell yourself that you will cross the bridge to the river. To be honest, I've been there, and I'm still alive and happy to be. Caregiver. One day while my life seemed on the edge of the abyss, I prayed constantly for my life to change. Only if you can pray a little help, you must be ready to act when you have to. I had met a man 10 years ago, and his unexpected return to my life transforms it. We unveiled our feelings and our love to each other. 10 days after our union, while heading towards the city of Contrecoeur, and it came from the heart yet, he asked me to marry him. The answer was yes, but with a warning. I spoke to him openly about my health issues, so he knew what to do with a future wife with mental health issues. I dreaded her reaction, but she was positive. We were getting married. 2 months after our union, I had a relapse. Too many emotions, in my opinion. A new psychosis was showing. We were not married yet that this man took me under his wing. When I had just been admitted to the hospital and my future husband did not know what to do, he did the impossible. He took me out of this hospital where I was getting bogged down. My attending psychiatrist was not in favor of my release, but as my insistent husband, I was still let out of there under his care. I was now at home, and it was in the comfort of my home that I healed. As I went through the worst moments of my life, I was accompanied all the way by my husband. No spouse, no panic, there are other solutions. His listening and confidence that I have him, helped me greatly to overcome what seemed insurmountable. People do not always understand what the person affected by mental health is going through. Their presences, which could have been comforting, shine rather by their absence. Ignorance of mental health disorders too often leads to the rejection of relatives. What to do? If you are the person in distress, try to have moral support from someone you trust. If this is not possible, there are help centers. Above all, do not stay alone. Be patient, the pain may be heavy, but not eternal. It will pass and it will be better. When? Nobody knows. You have to be patient. A good old saying, everything comes to a point. Who knows how to wait? For loved ones. What I appreciated most about my husband is his listening, the non-judgment, and even if he did not always understand me, he was there. React for oneself. Questioning oneself. Analyzing. Reflect. To select. Personal conclusions. A normal life is possible. After experiencing the years of depression, psychosis, and disability related to all this, I lead today a perfectly normal life. My life was not always a fairy tale. I spent several years suicidal and sad. I was not able to go to work anymore. One day it was even welfare, because I did not have anyone near me and I had no financial resources. It was terribly painful. Formerly I had gone to university to become a biologist. My hopes to nothing, I wandered without knowing what I was going to become. One day a psychologist said to me, "Your life is your life." I thought I collapsed. I thought my life would be pitiful until I died. On the other hand, I decided that it would be different and I seized certain occasions which passed in order to transform my life. Today I have a stable job as a cleaning lady. This is not the job I once dreamed of, but surprisingly, I love what I do. I have an apartment where I love to live, and the most wonderful of all, I am married to the man of my life. I lived a wedding day raised by the most beautiful feelings, love. I was told once that I did not deserve anybody in my life, because of my health, that I had nothing to offer. So here from a life where there seemed to be little hope, yet today I have a very normal life and even more, wonderful.